Okay, amazing. Thank you, everyone, for coming to this workshop. Yeah, as I was saying before, I hope you find it really useful. Just to quickly introduce myself and Jenny, who are from Groundwork. We're from Groundwork London. We're a social environmental charity that works with individuals and communities to improve their environment and support greener living and working across the whole of London. We're actually working with Cross River Partnerships to deliver this workshop as part of the Clean Air Villages project. And I'll hand over to Kate just to briefly introduce Cross River Partnerships and tell you a bit more.
Thanks, Suzanne. So yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kate Fenton, Project Manager at Cross River Partnership. So CRP is a public-private partnership and Westminster City Council is our governing body. So we're a not-for-profit organisation and we were set up 26 years ago to project manage the delivery of the Millennium Bridge. And since then we've gone on to work on projects that make London a nicer place to live, work and visit, as we say. So we're a membership organisation made up of partners from the public and private strategic agencies, for example, Transport for London and the Greater London Authority. So CRP is currently running and delivering a range of projects across London, as you can see from that slide, and the Clean Air Villages 3 project is why we're here today. So next slide, please. Thank you. So the Clean Air Villages 3 project is known as CAV, is a DEFRA-funded or central government funded air quality project. CRP is delivering this project with 16 partners across London, 12 local authorities and 4 improvement districts. So the aims of this one-year project are to engage with businesses, communities and hospitals in 16 air quality focus areas. These are essentially areas that have been targeted due to their high levels of pollution and high levels of footfall. So these areas are called villages because they all have their own local characteristics and therefore require tailored solutions. This is a behaviour change project and CRP implements a wide range of solutions and schemes on both the local level and across all of the areas. Next slide, please. Thank you. So just to give you an idea of the activities that take place across the project, but that are not limited to. So we have been working on some air quality monitoring and the production of some clean air routes. We have been doing some traffic monitoring studies. We've been using vehicle telematics monitoring devices for businesses that have been considering switching to electric vehicles. We offer tailored one-on-one advice to businesses and organisations within these areas. We have also produced a local directory that lists businesses who deliver or provide services using zero or ultra low emission vehicles, so bikes, electric vehicles or on foot, that kind of thing. We've also run a series of live share events. These online webinars are all available on our website and they've had presentations from industry professionals and discussions and advice about air quality. Plus these active and sustainable travel workshops with Groundwork and much, much more. But that's it. I'll hand over now to Jenny and Suzanne. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Kate. So yeah, we'll go right into it then. What is active travel? So active travel means getting from A to B using your own energy, whether that's walking, jogging, cycling, wheeling, or even rollerblading. There are loads of reasons why you should start choosing active travel rather than, say, getting in a car. And one of the main reasons is due to air pollution. So air pollution is the release of particulate matter, such as dust, soot, small drops of liquid, and gases like carbon dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide. And these impact the environment negatively and cause huge problems to human health. And road transport are one of the biggest contributors to air pollution. And in London alone, air pollution contributes to around 9,400 early deaths a year and causes huge health problems such as asthma. With many places in London actually in illegal limits at times, choosing active travel rather than getting in a car helps to reduce the emissions and so can create a nicer, cleaner and safer local environment for people to live and work in. Quite an interesting, and as you can see on the slide, pollution in the UK as a whole contributes between 28,000 and 36,000 early deaths. So it is really something that needs to be addressed. A really interesting research study completed by King's College University as part of their Healthy Air campaign actually found that people in cars were exposed to up to 6 times more air pollution than, say, someone cycling the same route or walking on a quieter sort of parallel street to reach the same destination. And you can see on the graph that the red is the exposure to air pollution for a car. And then the blues and greens are for walking or cycling. So it's quite, you can see it's a drastic difference. And this is because the pollution gets trapped inside the car and has nowhere else to go. So you're sort of exposed a lot more. But if you are interested in the study, there's more information on it in the leaflet that we're going to send out to you after the workshop. So just a food for thought to consider. When you're walking around London, either popping to the shops or having your daily exercise, have a look at the number of cars on the road and how many people are only one person in each car, and just consider what environmental and health impact that is having.
Great, thanks, Suzanne. So active travel also has many health benefits, as Suzanne kind of picked on there. Some of you know it's recommended that adults do 2.5 hours of physical activity a week, and active travel makes it easier to achieve this by working into your kind of everyday routine. So whether that's walking to the shops or cycling to work in kind of normal times, or could be even kind of taking the scooter on the school run, things like that. So the average commute is about 5 miles or less in London. So that can be cycled in just kind of 30 minutes, which maybe isn't too far for some of you. So adding exercise into your daily life reduces your risk of health issues like heart disease, and you can see the kind of other diseases and things here. It increases your mental health and well-being, and it reduces your stress and anxiety. So I find that walking kind of helps kind of give me perspective and helps me kind of even with kind of creative thinking and things like that. It's just really great if you're kind of on the way to work. And in the first lockdown, we kind of saw that car use went down very drastically around the world, and air quality did kind of improve, at least kind of temporarily. However, kind of with the pandemic giving concern over kind of public transport use, cars are kind of being used more and more for kind of regular trips and things. And as Suzanne said, you're actually kind of more exposed to air pollution in a car or kind of in public transport than you are just in the kind of the next lane on a bike or walking next to the car. So active travel is the healthier choice, and it's being made kind of easier through kind of initiatives like widening footpaths and pop-up cycle lanes and things at the moment. So if you've been hesitant before, now is the time to kind of get out there and feel more confident cycling and things like that, so that you can cycle to work when we get back to normal.
So another reason why choosing active travel, you should choose active travel, is that it's a more reliable option. So relying on active travel means that you can leave the house at any time without worrying about missing a train or a bus or getting stuck in traffic. And it can also get you from A to B faster than driving, as we all know how much time is wasted just being stuck in traffic in London. Another huge upside to active travel is that it can save you money on petrol if you'd normally drive public transport, but also as you're already being active, you won't need to pay for a gym membership. An interesting study comparing the cost of commuting 4 miles in London for over a work year shows that compared to other forms of transport, active travel can save you a lot of money for a similar timed commute. It's interesting if you look at the cycling versus the underground, getting the tube, it's the same time. However, cycling is about £1,000 more cheaper. So it's worth considering. And also, I mean, this research study looked at carbon footprint, so it's also worth considering that into your commute. So throughout this workshop, I hope you'll see that starting your active travel journey doesn't have to be difficult or challenging, or you don't have to become a hardcore enthusiast. It's just about taking those small steps and slowly by slowly you'll get there. I started cycling to work a couple of years ago when I realized it would save me over £100 on not getting a monthly train ticket, and it would still take the same amount of time. My commute wasn't changed. Although I have to say I'm a nice weather cyclist, so when the clocks change in spring, that's when I get my bike out. So hopefully this summer I will get to do that. My workplace also offer an incentive for using my bike to get to meetings or to get to work site visits. And this helps contribute to my maintenance costs. So something for employers to consider.
Active travel is also really good for business. So a report written by Living Streets found that people who travel to shops on foot or bike actually kind of spend more money and time in the businesses compared to people who drive. So reducing road traffic and making kind of streets friendlier to shoppers meant that retail sales increased by up to 30%. This is also seen in a study in Walthamstow where they restricted the road traffic and saw a 43% increase in footfall. So more time to spend in shops and less time worrying about traffic obviously pays off. And during the pandemic, as the kind of outdoor space available to businesses has increased to allow for kind of social distancing measures and things like that, customers and kind of businesses have benefited alike. Another factor with business and active travel is that it actually decreases absenteeism in the workplace. So a study by YouGov found that users of the National Cycle Network took half as many sick days compared to the average UK worker, and they're also kind of benefiting from all the kind of everything else, the health benefits that we've mentioned already as well.
Amazing. So now I think Jenny and I have done enough talking, and hopefully you've got some interesting facts and things that you didn't know before about active travel. Normally we would split you guys up into different groups, but I think this time around we'll keep you in the same room and have a discussion all together. We'll give you a couple of minutes just to consider these 4 travel options. So cycling, walking, public transport, and then in one bulk, electric bikes, scooters, skateboards. And if you could number them 1 to 4, 1 being the easiest thing you could do, 4 being the most difficult, and just type that into the chat box, that would be great. And then if you are comfortable to feedback and explain sort of why you feel like that. And then also we'll, as a group, think of the barriers that we face individually towards active travel, and then come up with some solutions and benefits. So have a couple of minutes and then type in the chat box when you're ready. Amazing, thank you everyone. It's actually quite interesting to see that we've got a variety of number 1s even in our small group. Laura, would you mind sharing why public transport is your number 1?
Yeah, so I'm in Windsor, so cycling or walking to London, Westminster is not really feasible unless I want to spend half my day commuting. So public transport's really easy, but on the other side, I would get off at Waterloo and then walk to Westminster. So each side of public transport, I'm walking. So I'd say,
So you're incorporating the active travel into, even though you have a long commute, you're already incorporating it, which is really great.
Yeah.
Anna, would you care to share your reasons?
Yeah, sure thing. So I'm in Southwark and I travel to the V&A, which is in Kensington, South Kensington. So I usually take a train and then the tube on my usual commute. Walking would be too long, as it probably would take about 45 minutes. So that would feel unreasonable for an average workday. And I just have a lot of cycling anxiety on the streets of London. I think that's a big barrier for me.
No, of course, and that's completely understandable actually, because London can be very busy. That leads us quite nicely actually. Jenny, if you'd like to bring up the whiteboard,
Sure.
And we can start discussing barriers and solutions.
Everyone see that?
Yes.
Great. So I think what we should do is maybe I'm going to write down some of the things that you said already, but maybe thinking about question 2, which is whether you're an employer or an employee, how could you either incorporate more active travel into your kind of workplace as an employer, or as an employee, kind of what can your workplace do to help, but also thinking as an individual as well, kind of what are your kind of barriers or individual solutions that you could think of. So I'm going to already just put in distance too far, as a few of you kind of mentioned that just now for a kind of barrier, but feel free to kind of, shout out any other suggestions and things for some of these solutions.
So I think the other barrier was confidence on the road.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure if you're aware, we will go into explaining a bit more of the resources out there to build your confidence up, but your borough they normally offer free one-to-one bike rides, and they can pick you up from your home and plan a route for you or show you the safest route you can take, because there's quite a few cycle highways in London where they are separated from the road, and these are, especially during COVID times, they've kind of expanded this cycle network and expanded the streets for walking a bit more.
Thank you. That sounds so useful. Yeah, I've heard similar things, but I didn't know anything specific, and I definitely wasn't aware of kind of individual help, if that makes sense, because I do feel that for me, it's definitely confidence on the road and fear of other drivers really that puts me off cycling.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's a really understandable why you feel that way. And the leaflet we'll give out also has links to to where you can look up where your council can offer. I think at the moment, because we're in such a big lockdown, they're not offering the one-to-one support, but that should ease up and open up more now that we're coming out of it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think having things that match up, so like knowing where a route is to work is it's not as obvious sometimes. So like you wouldn't know where you could potentially get a hire bike and then get from a train station to there, or like travel planning is like knowing where you're going and how to get there. It's not always that clear, or Google Maps might not take you along the quietest road to cycle.
Yeah,
I think that removes your barrier to the fear as well, because like from personal experience, I didn't cycle, or I wasn't a cyclist when I moved to London, and I now cycle kind of everywhere if I can. And when it came to getting to work, I would kind of like do a trial run on a weekend when there was less traffic, I wasn't in a hurry, and it just gave me that confidence. And once you know the route of A to B that you do regularly, it's a lot easier because you start to understand the traffic light systems, you know the way, you don't have to worry about navigation, which is kind of like an extra hurdle to get over. So I found that helps.
Mm-hmm.
That's really great advice, Kate. Thank you so much. That's yeah, a good top tip to have. I know when I first started cycling, I had a colleague who lived close by and she knew the cycle route. So she would actually buddy up with me and we would do the route together, which was really useful. Are there any?
I also think.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just going to add, like, I also think one of the barriers is that it's getting over that first hurdle of getting started, because if you don't own a bike and you've never used a hire bike or anything like that, but maybe you know how to ride a bike, it's just kind of, where do you start? Do you just go out and buy one? Because that feels like a big investment. So that's why it's worth looking at things like the hire bike schemes that are available all over London and elsewhere. And I suppose looking at like, even hiring a bike, or looking at what your company offers when it comes to the Help to Buy schemes as well, so that you don't have to make a big purchase in the first place if you're sort of tentatively wanting to give it a try. Or borrow a friend's bike, you know, something like that.
Yeah, that's really good.
I guess employers could do more about like maintaining your bike. Like, I think all of us can have a bike that we put in the shed and then we want to use it, but you know, how safe is it to ride? Like, what do you do if you get a puncture? You don't just call up the RAC, which would be handy. But like, it is different to, it's a different way of life than it is to, you know, everything that's accessible when you've got a car and something breaks down, or like if the tube doesn't work, you know, you just have to walk or you find a taxi or whatever. So knowing how to fix your bike yourself is quite handy.
Yeah, I've had previous employers that have kind of hosted kind of bike maintenance workshops every couple of months, and they have been really good. Anything else from employers?
Facilities when you get to work, I don't know about everyone, but because they don't always have showers, and if you go to work and you've got a nice meeting, if you're cycling 30 minutes, you don't want to be worried about sweating for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Jenny, Kate mentioned it slightly, but for employers, the Cycle to Work scheme. So this is another resource that will be on the leaflet that we hand out, but employers can register for the Cycle to Work scheme, which means you don't have to pay like a huge amount for a bike you want straight away. Your employer will buy the bike for you, and then you pay back your employer through your monthly paychecks, and you can sort of extend it to a year, up to a year, to even more, depending on how, you know, little you want to pay each month. And it actually means that you pay less for the bike because it's tax-free, which is really, you know, useful to have that scheme, and if your employer signs up.
Great. I think that's really great, everyone. I think we'll move on and maybe give you a few more ideas of what you can do as an employer as well.
Amazing, thank you. Yeah, thank you all. I mean, together, I think we came up with quite a few ways employers can help and, you know, solutions to overcome those barriers. I know some, like distance, you can't really overcome, but like Laura, how she gets on the train and walks either side, that's already incorporating active travel into your journey. So some things that your employers can help with, and to incorporate active travel into the recovery plan, because I know we've, you know, a lot of us have been working from home and not going into central London quite so often. Well, the first one is providing information, and that's, you know, really it's a low cost, cheap thing for employers to start doing, is to share safe cycle routes around your office, and to show low air pollution travel routes, which I will show you a really useful Cross River Partnerships Clean Air Route Finder tool in just a bit. And that's really great to sort of find the least pollution route from A to B kind of thing. Another thing is to share resources and offer workshops. So, you know, overcoming the active travel or cycling journey, this is the first step, is to go to a workshop and to find out what's out there, and to become aware of what's available to you. And it's not always expensive. And because active travel is becoming a really key issue for the government at the moment, there's loads of amazing free resources out there for you to use. The second is to make it easier choice for staff. So that's offering flexible working. So maybe letting your staff come in earlier before the peak rush hour, so there's less cars on the road, or arriving slightly after the peak rush hour. Also, like you mentioned, providing facilities on site, so a quick shower before you go into that important meeting would really help. And then also a great idea is to team up with other businesses in the area, and you can apply for these secure cycling units that are placed on the street, and they just mean that your bike's protected that bit more. We spoke about the cycle to work schemes. But there's other financial incentives. So you can actually offer your employee 20p per mile tax-free by using their bike. And also, I mean, it's always like good to have a bit of competition. You could set up a competition within the different teams in your workplace, or have a cycle to work day and offer a breakfast for everyone who cycles or walks, or, you know, does a bit of their journey that's active travel related. Have a bike loan scheme, so your employees don't have to just buy a bike straight away up front. They can test it out for a bit, and some councils offer this bike loan scheme as well, and then you can buy the bike for quite a cheap rate at the end if you want to keep it. There's also Love to Ride Cycling Challenge, which is an online organization where you can sign up and record the miles you do on your bike, and start a sort of competition and win badges. And they also put you in a draw every few months to actually win really cool, like useful bike resources, or even a bike sometimes. And of course, senior leadership team should lead by example. So when you see someone, you know, your line manager cycling to work, you're more likely to give it a go as well. So that's a great incentive. Thanks, Jenny. So these are the resources that we mentioned, and they will all be going onto the leaflet that we're sending you. So the first one I wanted to show you is a Clean Air Route Finder, and I will share my screen and show you the Clean Air Route Finder. Can you all see that? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So this is just my local area, and I preloaded it in time for the workshop. So this red here is through a main road. It's actually the South Circular. And as you can see, the highest means that it's the highest pollution exposure that I will have if I cycle this route. The middle orange one shows you that actually it will be 8.5% lower pollution exposure if I do that route. And the green shows you that almost 20% lower pollution if I cycle this green route, which actually takes me through a park, and it's a lovely route actually. But it's a really amazing, it's so easy to use. The Clean Air Route Finder that Cross River Partnerships developed. You put in your starting destination, your starting point and your end point. Choose if you want to walk or cycle that route. And it gives you, you know, the time it takes. So it doesn't even change for the time to have, you know, a lower pollution route. So it's really great to, you know, start incorporating this into your normal journeys, and find out if you're taking the safest route for your health. Cross River Partnerships are also, they've developed sorry, I'm just moving things out my way so I can reload the page. Each business area, they've developed a sort of clean air route, well-being route for you. So as you can see, there's loads. There's one over in New Cross. There's some in the South Bank and North Bank. So if you click on them, then it shows you the cleanest walking route you can do, which is really useful. Thanks, Jamie. Amazing. And then we spoke about the Cycle to Work scheme and the rent-a-pack schemes that your workplace can do, and the cycle skills free training as well. So if you look on the TfL website, this is what I was explaining before, you can get one-to-one cycle sessions through your council for free, and they can come pick you up and pick the safest route for you and give you a bit more skills and confidence. And then the three at the bottom are really useful as well. Have a look. Cross River Partnerships have developed a huge range of resources to use, and they're all on their website, and we've linked them into the leaflet as well.
Thanks, Suzanne. So we thought we'd just share with you really quickly a case study that we found on the Love Lambeth website. So this is about Paul, who works for Lambeth Council, and he said he felt kind of nervous about cycling in London at first, as kind of many of you said today. He heard it could be quite intense and even dangerous on the road, and he didn't really kind of understand kind of cycle etiquette and the rules and things. And his major thing was that he didn't own a bike, and wasn't keen on kind of making that investment unless he knew that he would actually be able to kind of cycle lots in London and use the bike a lot. So he organised renting a bike through the Try Before You Buy scheme, which Lambeth ran, and picked up his bike in a local park, met an instructor who kind of taught him through the kind of safety tips, some kind of easy maintenance and instructions and things. And the instructor actually took Paul kind of on the route that he would usually do to work, so kind of showed him the quieter roads and what to do at different junctions and things like that. And he was kitted out with a helmet, a high-vis jacket, kind of lights and a bike lock and things. And he kind of loved cycling so much after doing it for a few months that he actually bought the bike and all the kind of kit from the scheme at kind of discounted price. So yeah, do have a look for those schemes, because they're really a great way to kind of get started.
Thank you. So just to summarize everything we've sort of been discussing this past hour. So what is active travel? Active travel means getting from A to B using your own energy, whether that's by walking, jogging, cycling, wheeling, even rollerblading. So why choose active travel? I mean, we've explained a huge variety of reasons. It's good for your health, the health of others in your community, as well as your wallet. And it's proven to help businesses and increase footfall. And how start? I mean, like I said before, coming to this workshop is a really good fast start. And there's loads of resources out there, and we'll share that leaflet with you, and you can go on to all the different links and do some research yourself. Just take small steps. The first step could be just checking your bike over if you've got a bike, or walking down to your local corner shop instead of driving. And then, yeah, speak to your workplace, see what they've got in their policy, because they might already have something that you're not aware of. And then, of course, make a pledge.
Great. So next up, we would love you to write a pledge in the chat box, which was basically kind of a promise to yourself, basically, of what you might think about starting in the next kind of couple of weeks. So it could be small, it could be big, but it's just a good way to kind of start making these habits and kind of put things into your everyday routine and things like that. So it could be kind of committing to 1 day a week of active travel in the future when we go back to work. It could be getting out on the bike. It could be asking a friend if you could borrow a bike, and feeling more confident before we go back to offices and things later in the summer, hopefully. So yeah, any of these ideas here, or anything that you want to think of, but if you would be up for it, sharing that in the chat box, that would be really great. Amazing. So Kate said, cycling less due to lockdown, but I pledged to cycle more regularly, which is really great. Yeah, I mean, as Suzanne said, it's just small steps, and it could just be, yeah, just kind of getting out on the bike at weekends when it's quieter and just feeling more confident, so that we can kind of potentially cycle more when it kind of gets back to normal a bit. But yeah, any other pledges that people would like to share? Laura's put, I would pledge to commit to active travel when going back to work, walking each day, and that you have a step challenge at your workplace, which is great, and that you're going to check your bike over, as I haven't used it in the winter. All good pledges. Thank you for sharing those. And Anna has said, I pledge to investigate the cycling resource shared today and borrowing a bike from a friend one day. That sounds great, Anna. Yeah, because even with the Clean Air Route Finder, you could just do it for even your regular journeys, and it makes such a difference. I know that's the case for me, kind of walking through the city and things. So any questions after all of that? Kind of just bombarded you with information, but yeah, let us know if you have any questions. Either just shout out or write something in the chat box.
Amazing. If there are no more questions, if there aren't any questions from anyone, then please feel free to just sort of log off. I'll be emailing you all the leaflet after this session. And so if you do have any future questions, you can just reply to my email anyway. But yeah, thank you for coming along, and I hope you found it useful.
Thank you so much.